RNG chat, because we love chatting the RNGs. Alright, so now, if you're ready for it or if you're not, coming straight at your face holes, making you aware of the whole world, opening your mind to new experiences, getting you ready for the madness that is the reality itself, coming at you at the speed of light, but not above, because there are rules for the universe. It's Heathen Dog Shadowrun Excitement.
Thank you very much, Garth. That was amazing. You should write that down. I want that every time.
You know, I always give intros and I never write them down. And when they're good, and when they're bad, I accept it.
Okay. All right. Well, today we're going to talk about Shadowrun. Later on in these segments, I'm going to get into the links between Shadowrun and Earthdawn, but right now we're going to stick to just Shadowrun. Now, I want to disclaim this.
Disclaim it, my friend.
I'm using a first edition book.
Weren't the rules in first edition Shadowrun kind of a
kid.
little bit of a mess?
They were a mess. I also have some second edition books which they cleaned up combat a whole lot.
But the lore is still good though.
The lore is basically the same. I mean, they go between like 4 and 8 years in between editions. Like, for example, in Shadowrun First Edition, you start off in the year 2050. In Second Edition, I believe it's 2056.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe 2063, something like that. I don't know. But they keep going, you know, several years at a time in between editions, which is great because you have more content that they give you, because, you know, where the year stopped, there's a gap. It's done, and then you have the second, third, and fourth edition, and then you have more content, which is great. But I just want to let you know that I played first edition. I've run first and second edition. These are the ones I know. So these in the back of my head, it's going to be filtered through that.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to get to the story of how Shadowrun came.
No, how did Shadowrun come, my friend?
No, I shouldn't do that. I should tell you this game was made in 1989. So the backstory starts in the 90s. All right, just fair warning. That's how it works. It is a cyberpunk game where magic and technology are mixed together in this world, and they don't go hand in hand per se, but they exist in the same place at the same time.
All right.
Okay, now, here we go. It all starts in the 90s. The rise of the megacorps. Now, in this version of history, in the 90s, there was a whole lot of civil unrest, generally around the world. No one could pinpoint why. They seemed to all have different triggers, different flashpoints, but they all kept happening around the same time. Now, the corporations got all upset because usually when crowds of people are mad, they're mad at faceless corporations, and they do all kinds of damage. So the corporations got together, back alley type, and decided, you know what, we should probably have our own standing armies. That's not going to work out in Europe and the US, but we could probably pull it off in our third world holdings. So that's what they did. They got mercenaries and outfitted them with the latest tech, the latest training, and created basically fiefdoms in third world countries. Now, after they got this foothold, this paramilitary foothold is established, they're able to pass them around the world into first world countries, and to, you know, countries that are already developed, and get away with it a little bit, get away with a little bit more, get away with a little bit more, because the governments were either weak or didn't care at this point.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that was all the 1990s. Now, it's a good note here. The USSR did not collapse in the 90s in this history.
Right. Because this game was created in the late 80s.
Yeah, it's late 80s. You know, no one but, you know, the high levels of Russia or maybe the CIA really knew that the USSR was in trouble at this point.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that happens much later. But anyway, this buildup happened throughout the 90s, and toward the beginning of the next century, 2002 to 2008, exactly, is the what was called the resource rush, where the corporations, now having more and more power, has more and more influence in the governments that they have offices in. So they're able to pay off the government to use eminent domain to get land and then lease it to the corporation to just rape. All the resources there, just take it all.
How convenient.
Now, I know, right? Most of these eminent domain seizures were from national parks and Indian tribal lands. This pissed off all the Native Americans everywhere because they like both those places, the places that are pretty no one touches and the places they live.
Yeah, I could understand them being fond of the places they live.
Yeah.
People are weird that way.
Yeah. So conservationists and Indian rights groups constantly express shock and disgust, but the corporate influence was so great that they couldn't get anything done. Literally no one cared. The people didn't care because all of their products are a little cheaper, and no one's actually cared about Native Americans for like ever. So it's kind of hard to get the show on the road when no one wants to see your show.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, it is. But in 2009, there was the Lone Eagle missile crisis. Now this one, there was a coalition. They would be called terrorists, obviously, for this, but it was the SAIM, the Sovereign American Indian Movement. Now it's mostly hyper radical white people and understandably pissed off Native Americans who are part of this group, and some of them are former military. Well, they decided to raid a missile silo in Montana.
As one does.
Yeah. Somehow, no one knows how they did it. They got in the silo covertly. They weren't detected till they were in.
Well, if there was no 9/11, then I could definitely see security being pretty lax.
Okay, good point. I'll grant you that. And
all they would have to do is wear a Pizza Hut uniform and have an actual pizza with them, and they'd be in.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all.
We were in the military. Come on now.
I know, it's true. It's true. They chose this particular missile silo because they had a guy on the inside.
Ah.
It was a Major John Redbourne. He was one of the two-man duo that control missile launch. Well, once the inside of the silo was secured by the same paramilitary group, he shot his partner, took his keys, gave them to his new partner in the terrorist organization, and called his brass and called the local TV and national networks to say, hey, I've commandeered this silo, and now I want to negotiate all the douchebaggy stuff you've been doing. Well, they negotiated for 10 days, getting nowhere until a Black Ops team, a U.S. Black Ops team, raided the missile silo, killed all of the terrorists. But before they died,
that'll show you.
Yeah, before they died, they got one missile off. And guess where it was pointed as a general default?
Oh, I'm guessing the Soviet Union.
You are correct, sir.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes. So in about 4 or 5 minutes, the Soviet Union is going to detect this launch. And about 30 seconds after that, they're going to figure out where it's going. And about 30 seconds after that, they're going to launch everything they got back at the U.S. So
that's unsportsmanlike.
I know. The President Jesse Garrity, had these few minutes to figure out what he was going to do. Well, he figured it out, and he called Moscow, and he told them exactly what the targets were. Because because the U.S. couldn't self-destruct this thing. They had 10 days. They rigged it so it wouldn't self-destruct, and they didn't have any aircraft close enough to intercept it before it got out of atmo. So they couldn't stop it. So they told Moscow exactly where it was gonna go, how it was gonna get there. Please don't be mad. It's not my fault. I mean, what do you say to that? I mean, that's all. He's like, it's a missile. I own it. Technically, yeah, I own it, but I didn't push the button or nothing.
Yeah, I mean, like, try shoot it down, please. We'd appreciate that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Here's exactly where it is right now. Here's where it's gonna be. Just take your time, aim. You got this, bro.
And if you don't, honestly, it's on you at this point.
Yeah, and they actually have in the game what they call the backroom tapes of President Garrity alternately weeping, ranting, and praying. 2 hours later, no explosions happened, by the way. They didn't detect any detonations. 2 hours later, General Secretary Nikolai Chelenko informed him that the warheads had been stopped. Except it says here, a privately conducted stress analysis test of his voice later indicated that only 79% of what he was saying was the truth. But since neither seismic nor space-based sensors recorded any nuclear explosions, then they took him for his word.
That's good enough.
Yeah. Now, after that, the blame comes down. And in 2010, we see Congress overwhelmingly pass the Re-Education and Relocation Act. Now, if you think back to World War II, it's that. It's a concentration camp for Native Americans.
Okay.
They round them up because we can't tell which one's a terrorist, which one's not, so we'll just jail them all.
Makes sense.
Oh, yeah, it gets better. At first, the camps were run by the government, which means they had federal oversight. And Red Cross gets to go in there whenever the heck they want, whenever they feel like it, check conditions. Well, after a while, when the publicity of the camps started to wane, the government contracted out the day-to-day operations of all of the camps to, guess who? Corporations.
Yay!
The same ones that have been raping these people's lands.
It's been working well so far.
Yeah, and so conditions got exceedingly worse. And worse and worse. People started starving to death. Disease was increasing. Healthcare was crap. Actual physical conditions of the buildings themselves were never maintained.
Oh, that's lovely.
So it was bad, but it gets worse because things right now are still, comparatively to what's coming, pretty okay.
Oh, that's good. At least things are pretty okay.
Yeah, because now we see where it all went pear-shaped. Okay.
I always love that expression.
I know, I liked it too. Late 2010, when most of the Native Americans were huddled up in their little prisons, a virus came out. The virally induced toxic allergy syndrome started breaking out. First in New Delhi, but within weeks, cases were being reported all over the globe. This was the worst viral outbreak in the history of the world. 25% of the population of the world was either dead or dying by the end of 2011.
Jeez.
Dead or dying. It was awful. And this was another big hit on governments who have been systematically becoming weakened by corporations. Now, corporations are looking like good guys now because they decided to any treatment for this disease they would prorate. They're doing research for free, and the first treatments were from corporations. They're looking like golden children in this one.
Right.
Now, another hit. This multi-country collapse. The first one was Mexico. The actual government of Mexico collapsed.
Oh.
Well, that's not very far-fetched. I mean,
for
the last 10 years, Mexico's been half thugs and the other half on fire most of the time. But in history, no other time in history has so many governments collapsed almost like a domino effect. Famine rocked the world, adding the already lengthy rolls of the dead. Massive civilian protests led to raids on European nuclear power plants, 3 of which suffered meltdowns. Radiation fallout spread through half of Europe.
Dang.
Yeah, it's no good. Now, toward the end of this year, something started happening to new births. Women were giving birth to elves. Now, they didn't immediately call them elves, but they were a little longer than babies should be, and they had pointed ears, and they were kind of prettier. It was initially called unexplained genetic expression, or UGE. No idea what happened, but these babies, their DNA is different than their parents. And
That's
then no one can explain it.
uh this is just like newborn kids. It's not the like adults
No,
or anything.
just newborn kids. Kids being born, they're either born human or 10% chance they're born elf.
Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then comes December 24th, 2011. This date is marked for two reasons. Well, three reasons. One, there was a sighting of the very first dragon in Japan. Later on, they figured out the name of this dragon was Rumio or Ryumio. Yeah, there is. I can't pronounce the Japanese.
Something Japanese.
Yes.
It's probably like Japanese for like dragon.
Yeah, dragon or flying serpent or whatever. Yeah,
something crazy. Yeah.
But people couldn't believe it. But it was recorded everywhere. I mean, everyone's got a cell phone now. You see a dragon in the sky, you point your cell phone at the sky and you record it.
Yeah.
So it couldn't be denied, and it was definitely a friggin' dragon. Definitely a friggin' dragon.
Which is something definitely worth taking a picture of.
Yeah. And the second marking of this is the age-old Mayan prophecy thing, where the world will have an apocalypse, which means it doesn't mean the end of the world. It just means the world's going to change. The world is now, you were in one world before, and after this date, you're in the new world, which is going to be radically different than the old one.
Yes.
And the third one is the rise of Daniel Coleman. He's a Native American imprisoned in one of the concentration camps in Abilene. And what happened with him is he stood up with all of his followers, walked out of the prison, bullets bouncing off of him, gates shredding in front of him, and he walked out into the wilderness.
No, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, everyone thought that was kind of weird. Yeah, no one could explain it. Of course, no one can explain a dragon either. So what are you going to do?
Yep.
Now, a little less than 3 years later, 2014, Howling Coyote, which is Daniel Coleman's new name, comes out of hiding. He declared that he was a shaman of the Great Ghost Dance, and he was backed by a much greater number of elite fanatics.
Well, a little history lesson. The ghost dance was the last resort of many Native American tribes after the control of the Midwest by the Europeans. The ghost dance was an appeal to the ancestors to kick the white men out of their land.
Well, guess what? In this new world, they're answering now. Yeah, with
dragons flying around and elves being born, you know.
Yeah, apparently that call got through this time. There was no hold, because the first thing he did when he made a press conference is he declared the formation of the Native American Nations, or NAN, a coalition of all the tribes in North America. And then, with his second breath, he demanded the running away of all Europeans in his land, which is all of North America.
Fair enough.
Not retreat, not go away, run away. And everyone laughed at him. Like, he's just a Native American. We've been imprisoning these guys forever. Just put a bullet in him, whatever. Because the whole tearing apart fortifications and bullets bouncing off, that wasn't made general knowledge.
Right. Well, we think they'd kind of keep it under their hat.
Yeah, and they did. Now, also in 2014, after this press conference, a mountain erupted, burying Los Alamos, New Mexico, under a cloud of ash. Howling Coyote appeared in a vidcast from a nearby Zuni reservation. He claimed credit for invoking our Mother Earth to punish the children who forsook her. Now, surviving documentation indicates the U.S. government did not take the claim seriously, which I wouldn't either. I mean, a mountain erupted, and I take credit. You're not going to believe me, because the mountain blew up. A person can't do that. Well, so they didn't believe him. Okay, I guess it's up to them. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
But they saw an opportunity to capture this terrorist, because they knew where he was broadcasting from. So within an hour of his broadcast, a federal reaction force composed of 6 Air Cavalry Battalion from Fort Hood, Texas, was in the air. The helicopters and support craft never reached the Zuni reservation. All were destroyed by sudden appearance of violent tornadoes. Sure, that's another coincidence. Yep.
Yeah.
Just another coincidence.
Yeah.
Yep. Just another coincidence. Yep.
That stuff happens all the time.
When the second force finally arrived, the shaman was gone. He wasn't in the reservation anymore. A guerrilla war went on to the great embarrassment of the federal government and the armed forces. And all the while, the corporations are looking better and better.
Yeah.
It became harder to enforce news blackouts, and official denials were increasingly thin. Finally, someone leaked the whole story, and it rocked the government, with President Jesse Garrity forced to take the heat. That this one guy keeps getting away from you time and time and time again.
With his super magic powers.
Exactly. So the president, now in the spotlight as being ineffectual and weak, decides to just screw this and solve the Indian question once and for all.
All right.
Okay. But before he could do that, he was assassinated in late 2016. Followed shortly by the assassinations of General Secretary Nikolai Chelenko of the USSR, Prime Minister Lena Rodal of Great Britain, and Minister Chaim Shun of Israel.
Oh, geez, that's a lot of dead people.
Yeah, I know. That's another coincidence. Just a coincidence. They're all assassinated at the same time. Yeah. William Springer, the man identified as Garrity's assassin, was never captured. Now, William Jarman, the new U.S. president, issued the now infamous Executive Order 17-321 immediately upon taking office. 1 month later, Congress ratified it with the Resolution Act of 2016. The corrupt government had sanctioned Jarman's plan to resolve the quote-unquote Indian question, total extermination of all Native American tribes.
Oh, geez.
This was it. This was it. Now, Howling Coyote knew exactly what he had to do. And on August 17, 2017, at 10:32 a.m., he enacted his response to the Indian question. Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, and Mount Adams all erupted in cataclysmic fury, all at the exact same time.
Well, that's impressive. I don't know what to say about that. That's damn.
Yeah, killing tens and tens of thousands of people. Obviously.
Yes.
Well, now the federal government isn't as skeptical as it was before. So they actually started negotiating with the Native American nations. And that brings us to the Treaty of Denver. Now, I'm going to stop us there because everything else is going to be on part 2.
That's a lot of stuff.
I know it's a lot of stuff. But we haven't gotten to the really good stuff yet. This is just a holy crap stuff.
I know that's some pretty good stuff though.
Thank you. Now, in my next Shadowrun segment, we're going to get into goblinization, which you touched on earlier, where adults start changing into other things, where magic actually is embraced as a fact, and the Matrix is born, the fully immersible internet. And these 3 things change the world in ways that no one could have foreseen.
I think I would assume things get pretty weird like that.
Pretty weird?
Pretty weird.
Pretty weird? Like, oh my God, I shouldn't have taken those 5 tabs of acid weird is what's going to happen.
That's a lot of acid.
Yes, it is. And you're probably not going to live through it. And not a lot of people did.
Well, that's a climate change solution right there.
There you go. All right. Well, if you liked the Shadowrun segment, please like it on YouTube, and please subscribe to the channel. We've got amazing content here. You can also find us on obviously Twitch if you're watching now, but on Twitter as well. What are those links again?
Man, don't make me go find the links. Well, you can find us on Twitter at Legion of Myth, YouTube streams at youtube.com/Legion of Myth. Check us out on Twitch at twitch.tv/Legion of Myth, facebook.com/Legion of Myth, patreon.com/Legion of Myth. Basically, whatever you got, put a / Legion of Myth at the end of it, and you will find us.
Oh, and if you go to Patreon, and you can buy the T-shirt. I have this shirt. I've had it for many years. It's been in my my cycle for that long. It's held up. It's good material. I have to give it a thumbs up.
I agree. There's actually a new logo now, so you might need to update.
Darn it.
It's basically the same, just it looks prettier. It's more modern. What the kids like nowadays with their iPhones and their non-rotary devices and their internet calling plans.
Non-rotary devices. If it doesn't hurt your finger by the end of the dialing sequence, it wasn't worth it.
That's right. I remember phone numbers had 7 digits. If you needed more than that, you were dialing 0. Yeah. Angry old man. I never had a party line though. That's stuff I've only heard of.
Oh no, my great uncle and great aunt had a party line where several houses and next to each other shared the same phone.
Yeah.
It was interesting, and their phone number was like JAS21.
Oh, crazy.
Something like that. Yeah.
Well, if you ever hear that old, Elvis did a version of it, but it's a Chuck Berry song, "The Poor Boy." Left my home in Norfolk, Virginia, California on my mind. If you know what I'm talking about. They actually do it a little scene in the original Men in Black where he's playing the car, the Elvis version. But at one point he says was talking to the operator, said, "Give me Tidewater 5409." It's like that was the phone number, Tidewater, and then 4 digits. Crazy. Things have changed a lot. But thank you very much, Heathen Dog, for your highly informative and, may I dare say, entertaining segment on Shadowrun and its history. Well, mainly Shadowrun history.
Woo-hoo. Mainly Shadowrun history, yes.
Yes. But look forward to 2 weeks of that. And next week, it's not Shadowrun. It is, I believe, anime on the stream.
That is right. That's right. And it's a special segment since I accidentally made the last segment special by making all 3 animes only available on Hulu. All 3 of next week's animes are going to be only available on Netflix.
So kids, get ready for that. We'll have to create a theme song for that. It's like anime in the stream. That is what we are.
If you can find someone that can sing and write lyrics.
Come on, just take Islands in the Stream and have anime instead.
You have to pay for that though, right?
Kenny Rogers ain't busy, is he?
All right.
All right, thanks a lot. Let's move on to everyone.